In today's show, Brownlow Medal, hits and misses, controversy in the WAFL Grand Final, and all the big stories in the lead up to this week's AFL Grand Final. Welcome to the West Sports Show. We are brought to you by TabTouch. Got the touch? Download the TabTouch app today. Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. It's Tuesday. I'm with Craig O'Donoghue. How are you, Cod?
Grand final week. It's awesome, isn't it?
Very exciting.
Got to love this week.
Absolutely it is. And I will say, after the qualifying final, Geelong's victory over Brisbane, I said these two teams will be playing off in the grand final.
You've also said throughout the year that GD West were going to win the flag as well.
I did say that.
And you barrack for Hawthorn, you've said they can win the flag.
I did.
So how many teams have you actually said?
It's various. I don't reckon did I say Hawthorn could win it? Yeah, probably.
You've said it back in the office.
Let's get back to that. When we get to the game, we can talk about that because I thought the Hawks were two midfielders short.
Yeah, no one
Got
cares.
a fair bit to get through, a little bit of WAFL, a bit of AFLW. Big night last night being Brownlow night.
Yes.
But let's just look at some local pieces out of it. Let's start with Reid. Congratulations. The fourth docker to win the coveted AFL Rising Star Award. But Hazelby in 2000, Palmer 2008 and Sarong in 2020. 25 goals in 24 games, 38 score assists. Second only to Cyril Rioli in a debut season. Also, number one ranked forward to hit a target inside 50, 39.1% of forward entries for Reid. Really impressive stats. 48 votes to him, ahead of another West Australian, Dan Curtin, with 35, Levi Ashcroft with 26, and Harvey Langford with 20. I don't think any of us would dispute that result, Cod.
No, I thought Reid was the clear favourite going in. Only one of the judges didn't give him the 5 votes. That was Nathan Buckley, who went Curtin, Harvey Langford, and then Reid. But yeah, it was just a really fitting result, I thought. And the lesson I reckon that's come out of it for any young guy or young girl coming through the ranks and wanting to be a good footballer is he's told this story several times in the past 24 hours that he was always told, doesn't matter whether you get the ball, it matters what you do once you've got it. And that's what sums up Reid. When he got the ball, he made things happen. He made the ball talk, whether it was a little hand pass over the top, little dinky kick, a goal, making his teammate look better. He made the team and his teammates look better, and that's the key to being a good footballer.
Always looked like he had time and space. Always looks like he's got a cool head. And interestingly, talking to one of his junior coaches before he's made that amazing debut in round one against Geelong, just saying every step he has taken up, he's always thrived in. So whether it was juniors up to the TAC, to the state 18s, and of course into AFL, he said he rose to the next level. So I wouldn't put it past him rising to the next level again. We know second seasons are really tough in the AFL, but do you think he can become a more permanent part of the midfield next year?
I think this is going to be really interesting for Fremantle. He can himself do that, but is he best for the team in that midfield? Is he better for the team in that half-forward role, setting up goals? And if you put him in there with Caleb Sarong and Andrew Brayshaw or Shea Bolton, are they too small? It will be the really interesting thing. So he's going to be a gun no matter where he plays, but what sort of squad they can put together in different points of the ground is going to be really important because Hayden Young's their big body midfielder, and then you got Erasmus and Johnson. If they go shorter in there, will that impact them? Because we've seen when they do go short, that they aren't as powerful in there.
Well, Luke Jackson's another one.
Yeah, so they're going to have to make that mix work. I don't think you could put Sarong, Brayshaw and Reid in there at the same time. I think that'd be a bit of a risk. So they're going to have to rotate it accordingly and make sure they give him some opportunities, but with the right blokes around him.
I think the answer is there'll be some time spent in the midfield,
yes,
or more time spent in the midfield. I think you can't just do it in one season. It has to be a gradual build, doesn't it?
You know what I reckon stood out last night is there was a time when the Rising Star, in fact, for nearly all of time, the Rising Star was a function by itself.
Yes.
And the players were celebrated. They'd be up on stage. They'd talk about their careers, lots of them, not just the person who wins it, but there'd be lots of people up there and they'd be talking about all their careers and looking back on them, and then they'd be celebrated and they'd be talked about for days afterwards. I felt like it was almost an afterthought last night. It was, congratulations, you've won the Rising Star. Then there was a 5-minute press conference this morning because we're all talking about Matt Rowell because he's won the Brownlow. And it's the big award. So I'd love for this to go back to being after the final round, before the first week of the finals, have the function, get all of the Rising Star nominees in the same room, get them up on the stage where they have the big team photo, and then you announce the winners later on and give them their due, because I didn't think he was recognised enough for the season that he had. When you got Goal of the Year going on last night, you got Mark of the Year going on, you've got the retirees being celebrated, and all these people who should be celebrated. I think this is something that's an award that should be recognised in a standalone category.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, mark my words, the bye will be moved. It will now be moved. It took a big Victorian player in a preliminary final to be concussed, so it'll be moved. So perfect opportunity, I think, in the first week of that 2-week break. Could be at the end of the home and away season, but I think that's the week you celebrate the season before you get onto the grand final. So I think it could find its own time slot. Completely agree with you. It seems like a good luncheon function.
Yeah.
And you could roll out highlights of each nominee.
And that's what they used to do.
Yeah.
They used to do all of that. I remember
could be on the Monday, could be on the Tuesday, but, Brownlow's traditionally on the Monday night. So I agree with you.
But, I mean, his year has just been fantastic, and what a steal to get him at pick 17 as well in the draft. So Fremantle will be stoked about what he's been able to do for them, and it just shows, that if you are hoping to get drafted and you think you're a top 10 pick or a top 5 pick, doesn't matter where you get drafted, seize your opportunity when it comes.
Well, he's certainly done that. What did you think of the overall Brownlow? An appropriate winner, Matt Rowell, has had a great season. I do feel sorry for Nick Dacos, just polling his pants off for another season and doesn't quite get there. Well done to the Dockers. So right up there, Andrew Brayshaw, 26 votes. Caleb Sarong, 25 votes. I was really pleased to see Noah Anderson poll, mainly in the second half of the season, but I've really felt for him. I don't think he really cared, to be honest. They're too close, those two. I mean, they would have been happy for each other. But he did speak well, Matt Rowell, in the end. And, there's a fire burning in him for more success in finals time. I like that angle. But you talk about seizing the opportunity. This is a player who quite openly said, no, I expected to play AFL. But you can see the incredible amount of work he has clearly put into himself.
Yeah, and he's a much better player now than he was when he went as the number 1 draft pick, because he was just that contested ball winner, get it out, and then you didn't see him with the second or third effort because the ball was gone. Now he gets the ball on the outside as well, but it's his tackling, it's his clearance work, it's just the bullocking, brash, bold play that he has, which makes him noticeable. And people often say, I have said today that there was a game in round 4 where he got 17 possessions and got best on ground. Well, he had 17 possessions, but he led the game for score involvements. He had 10 score involvements that day. So he has influence whenever he touches the ball, a bit like what we said with Murphy Reid before. When he gets it, you notice him, and something always happens whenever Matt Rowell is around the ball. And I reckon it's also worth noting that people were saying, this is a shock. It's a shock. It's not a shock. It's a surprise to people who haven't watched him play, because they aren't on free-to-air TV a hell of a lot. So Nick Dacos, into Victoria specifically, was on 13 times on free-to-air TV throughout the year. Matt Rowell was on free-to-air TV into Victoria 3 times, 5 times into Perth free-to-air. So when you're not being seen by the majority of people, because a lot of people don't have KO or Foxtel to be able to watch these games, they're not seeing him play. But they're seeing Collingwood on the big Friday night stage, and you go, Nick Dacos is going to win it, or Bailey Smith as an example. The guys who are from the lower profile clubs, we often forget about. And I think this is exactly what's happened here. Rowell was really high up in the Coaches Association awards. He's polled well nearly every single year in the Brownlow. He's an All-Australian this year, and I reckon most people have just forgotten about just how good he was, especially at the start of the year when we knew he was going to poll well.
He's a worthy Brownlow winner. And as a proud major sponsor of the Fremantle Football Club, Woodside has accepted the challenge of supporting local footy at all levels, from grassroots to greatness, so it can thrive throughout WA. Woodside, Australia's leading energy company. I think Freo supporters will know how good he is. He was the one who got his foot on the last ball from that last centre clearance, of course, in the elimination final. So he's been doing that all year. Good to see some non-midfielders. Well, Max Gawn is technically a midfielder, but a ruckman. Polling really well, 23 votes, and also Jeremy Cameron with 20 votes. It's good to see a few of those players appalling.
Do we talk about the
I have to talk about one game. I'm not going to bag the umpires for any Matt Rowell votes, but how in the hell does Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller not get the 3 for that game against Melbourne?
I've got a theory on it, and my theory is they talked about, as an umpire, you talk about how the votes are going at quarter time, half time, 3/4 time, and at the end of the game. So at 3/4 time, Melbourne are 46 points up, and I reckon they've got Jack Viney as their best on ground at that point. And then I reckon they've got to the rooms after the match and been so flustered by that 6-6-6 free kick at the end of the game and having to reset things. They would have walked off the ground going, did we get that right? Did we get that right? And they've talked about that in the rooms. And I reckon they've totally forgotten the last minute of the game with Wanganeen-Miller kicking those 2 goals. And it hasn't even come into their thinking until they've probably driven home and gone, oh, God, afterwards, and realised they've stuffed it up. But, yeah, the reaction in the room when everyone just laughed and went, how they got this wrong, that's something that those four blokes will always think about it. One of them's now retired. He's from WA. That's Jeff Dalglish. Sorry, Dags. And they'll always think back now, how on earth did we get that one wrong?
I get your theory, but I can't buy it because he'd already racked them up. But then it was the goal to level the scores.
Yep.
And then there was a little bit of time there for the 6-6-6 for them to get it right. But I can't wear it, mate. I thought it's one of the great.
It's the sort of decision that puts the umpires in jeopardy of having the Brownlow still being an award that they vote on when you make those sorts of mistakes. They're the ones you just cannot afford. You can have this bloke was maybe best, that was quite an even game, all that stuff. When everyone in the world's going, he's best on ground, he's had 34-4, and you guys go, we didn't get that right. That's a problem.
One of my favourite parts of the night, always has been, is the camera angles on players when votes are awarded and the raised eyebrows and the snigger to the teammate next to them, like, how the hell did I get 3 for that game? Don't you love it?
The various drinking games that are going on.
They're still going on.
Oh, yeah.
The full glass
that was what my wife was enjoying watching it. She always sits there just looking at different elements and she's like, that was funny, that was funny.
Oh, well, it was, I mean, we're not promoting drinking games, but it's pretty...
It's a long night. I've been to a couple of Brownlows and they're there very, very early and it goes for a hell of a long time up for them. So, yeah, they've got to keep themselves entertained some way.
From the sublime to the not-so-sublime West Coast Brownlow votes. Sorry, Eagles fans, but we've got to mention it. 12 votes in total. Half of those votes came in one game when Liam Ryan polled 3, Brady Hoff 2, Harley Reid 1 in their only win of the season against St Kilda. Broke their own record, which was 15 votes in 2022. So not a great season for West Coast, clearly reflected in that.
Yeah, and there's no shock in that at all. Like I thought maybe 4 votes would be the most any West Coast player would get. I was thinking of having a punt on who would get the most votes for them, and I was like, there's got to be someone who's going to get the 3 for that game and maybe jag a 1 here or there. But to lead the count for your own club with 3 just shows that they had a year where they barely won, and if you barely win, then you're not going to get many votes, and if you get flogged most weeks, you're not going to get many votes either. So I don't think there would have been too many West Coast fans who would have walked away going, our blokes deserve more. That's just the year that you have when you're down the bottom of the ladder.
Time for a quick AFLW update. This update is brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers, supporting local footy from grassroots to greatness. Good news and bad news at the weekend. So Freo, 2 in a row. 9-2-56 defeated your girls, Essendon 1-2-8, makes them 3-3. So didn't start the season very well, but it looks like that derby's got them back on track.
It's interesting as well, because they didn't start the season well, they've now got a percentage of 64.1. So that's where their challenge is. They have to win an extra game now because of that. Having a flogging like that of Essendon was really important because that will increase their percentage, but I can't see them getting enough of a percentage to get over that problem from earlier on in the year, no matter how many more games they win like that. So to be up 7-1 to 0-1 at 3/4 time, they really put the pressure on the Bombers. And Kiara Bowers just being the tackling machine that she
21 tackles.
Yeah, just crazy.
That's broken. It says 1 shy of her own record. So the record she holds is 22.
Yeah, and she tackles to hurt. She hurts people, and that's important. If you're going to lay a tackle to hurt. So she's a star coming back from having a baby last year as well. She's a phenomenal player, MVP winner herself within the AFLW competition, and is leading that team by example with what she's prepared to do.
Shout out to Gabby Newton too, with 17 contested possessions, and Mim Strong, very bold showing in the ruck. West Coast, 3-5-23, defeated by Melbourne 10-14-74. Eden Zanker with 5 goals for the Demons. Charlie Thomas, Ella Roberts, Abby Bushby, good players for West Coast, but not quite there at the moment. Just fallen away a little bit. Is there a theory that a bit like Western Derbies, the AFL version, you can fall away a little bit, take a little bit out of you? Because that game was played in really bad conditions.
Yeah, the conditions, I think, more than the Derby itself would have been a reason for that. But you also wonder, have they been found out a bit? Like the way they were playing, they've been very attacking, they've been able to score goals, and suddenly the conditions didn't help them in the Derby where they struggled to score goals. But they didn't score a goal until the final quarter. On the weekend, it was 10 goals, 11 to 0 goals, 4 at three-quarter time. So have teams figured out Daisy Pearce's strategies and the ball movement, and are they finding ways to say, no, you're just not going to get down there now? So
that's part of the game. You've got to get around that.
They've got to find a way to overcome that now, because that's where your challenges lie. So big steps now they have to take.
WAFL Grand Final on Sunday at Optus Stadium. 23,752 attended, reasonably healthy. Not as good as I thought it would be. It was a really good day to go and watch sport. $40+ to get in. I thought it was a bit steep. So I think the WA football have to have a bit of a look at that. People, by the time you pay that, say buy 2 and then a couple of kids, and then you're dishing out $11 for a beer. It's a pretty expensive day. So if you want to fill that stadium or get it half full, just have a look at the prices, I think.
Yeah, I thought kick on the ground at the end of the game was great. So I went with my son. You end up buying, chips and a couple of drinks, and a couple of ice creams and stuff like that. You end up spending nearly $50 on food. So it becomes more than $100 a day. And I think that's what people shied away from. That if it had been a bit cheaper for adults, I reckon you can make up the cost of that. And I mean, the reality is they need to have about 30,000 people to break even for the cost of hiring the stadium and stuff. So they're trying to put the figure up for what it will cost to get in, so that they don't have to have as many people, but you want more people. So
it's a really strange game. So obviously,
horrible game.
East Perth had to drag South Fremantle down to a certain level to actually have a chance of winning the game. Totally get that. But when you're zigzagging across the half-back line with 1 million possessions, here's an idea. You've got to get it inside 50. The big ruckman, Scott Jones, whenever they've sort of went long to him, he looked the part. So I couldn't for the life of me work out why it wasn't – it can't be predictable, but surely you're going to waste a lot of energy with those uncontested possessions.
They had nearly 40 more possessions in the first quarter and had 5 inside 50s. But then in the last quarter, they had a crack. I mean, the reality is they nearly won the game. So it worked. It was a smart decision by the coach to go out there and play that way. Ross McQueen's a really good coach and knows what he's doing. Craig White's a ripper out at South Freo as well. And both of them had their ways of trying to win the game. And in the end, it got down to the final moments, didn't it?
So the votes were interesting. There were no similarity whatsoever between those voting on the Simpson and the umpires. So in the end, they went with the umpires' votes.
Yeah, so I didn't have... So there were 8 players...
I had Scott Jones as my 3.
Okay, so there were 8 players who polled, and it was 3-1 by three different organisations, or 3 different people, if you call the umpires an organisation. That just showed how even it was. The bloke I had best on ground didn't get a vote at all. So I had Stan Wright.
Oh, okay.
I reckon he's a ripper. He was good. Across half back, had about 34, went forward at different points as well. So it could have been anyone who they gave the medal to. So, in the end, it's hard to say that it was wrong, because no one agreed with each other.
Obviously there was some, it wasn't a great outcome for East Perth. We'll get onto the decision in a moment. I just wanted to give a shout out to Hayden Schloith. Announced his retirement after the game. We've known about his health issues this year. One of those uplifting, not just footy stories, but life stories, that he could find his way back after his health issues, get into that side, and now he's a premiership player for the second time. Really happy for him.
Yeah, I thought he was stiff not to be an AFL player as well. He was on Freo's rookie list for a year, maybe 2 years. Wasn't ready for the professionalism of AFL footy at the time, but with the WAFL career that he's had, I was always surprised that he didn't get more of an opportunity to get back into the AFL system, because he's been a WAFL star.
How's the free kick sit with you? So the free kick, final siren sounds, South Fremantle player kicks the ball away, no 50-metre penalty. It's right within the rules. Yeah,
so the free kick for holding the ball I thought was wrong. I thought it was a really hot free kick. You
didn't think it was wrong?
No, that wasn't holding the ball free kick. There was no prior whatsoever. But from there, obviously the siren sounds, ball gets kicked away. My son's up on his chair barracking for East Perth, screaming for a 50. I said to him,
so he's an East Perth supporter?
Yeah, where we live in the East Perth zone, so he's East Perth footy with him and stuff. And he was like, that's 50. And I said, you're not going to, just calm down. You're not going to get 50 here. It's after the siren. It doesn't count. So he was back down on the ground. But I can see why people want it to be 50. I do think if you pause the game when that ball is kicked and have a look at all the East Perth players, they're all on the ground. They've given up at that point. They said, we can't win the game. So that's why you look at it and go, that's not actually what the spirit of the 50-metre penalty was brought in for. Everyone's conceded, game's over, player kicks the footy.
What if I encroach, I'm on the mark and I encroach on the mark, or someone comes into the protected zone, then it's 50?
Yeah, if he's having a shot, right, and he's got the ball in his hands and he's running and you jump over, that's impacting upon the moment. Whereas we saw in 2022, Chad Warner did the same thing for Sydney.
He did.
Kicked it into the crowd thinking the game was over. And they said, no, he didn't know that the free kick had been paid. It's 90 metres from goal. You're not getting 50 for that. So you can, and we have seen it in suburban footy and country footy. You see highlights all the time where crazy, silly things happen. The umpires pay 50 and it wins the grand final for a team. I don't think that's what we want to see. I reckon we'd be arguing that it shouldn't have been 50 if East Perth had have won. I don't think anyone would be comfortable with it.
I think if East Perth had have won under those circumstances, it probably goes to the High Court, the decision.
Who knows?
Is there a difference, though? Devil's advocate. So with the South Fremantle players rushing onto the ground and he's having a shot from the middle of the ground, is that fair? So
they weren't on the ground when he was having the shot. So he's 90 metres from goal. No one, and as I said, and the East Perth players are laying on the ground themselves. They know it's over at that point. So I don't think you can say they've got too many players on the field because they were off the field by the time the ball was kicked. The main thing from out of all this, I think, that we've all learnt is that the rule book has to be clearer because the umpire's handbook, which gives them a whole lot of information about interpretations and what's expected of them, the public can't see that. And it's really clear that they're not paying 50. And I thought the umpires did really well with their communication to the players and they were calm and got it all sorted out.
You think there needed to be more instant communication to the fans? Maybe flash it up on the big screen.
Potentially, but I think the rule book, for when everyone goes to the rule book and says, it's fairly vague, it's a bit grey, we're not really sure what it means, that just should simply say there, 50-metre penalty will not apply in this situation. And then everyone walks away going, that's the rule, as opposed to the umpires saying, look, it's not strictly in the rule book per se, but it's interpreted in how we're being instructed, and there's a previous example to throw to. No, just put it in the rule book. Really, really clear.
One of those ones where I think in the moments after the final siren, there was a lot of anguish over it. But I think in the cool light of day, people looked at it and thought, well, actually, it was probably the right call. So 24 hours is great to have that hindsight. But
say this, he got onto the top though, didn't he?
Oh, he did.
He had a good crack at it.
Well, you're going to, aren't you? Onto the most important stuff, Cod. Preliminary final weekend in the AFL delivered as it always does. 99,000 at one game, 96,000 at the other. My Hawks are out. I was pretty happy with the effort. They threw everything bar the kitchen sink at Geelong. Always thought they'd be two midfielders short, and I think that was the difference in the end. Two midfielders short, Hawthorn, and one player by the name of Patrick Dangerfield in one of the truly great finals performances I've ever seen. Yeah, just a superstar, isn't he? And I look back to the first game of the year when Dangerfield was best on ground at quarter time against Fremantle and then barely played for the rest of the match. Chris Scott went, we're done. We've got this game in control. We're going to rest you now. And throughout the entire season, Dangerfield was told, if we're in control, you're on the bench. If we think we're going to win this game, you can have a rest. And they just prepare him beautifully so that come finals, he can be as fresh as a daisy, walk into the centre square and go, I'm going to bash and crash and beat you all up. Can he do it 2 weeks in a row?
Well, I think he can because he's that type of player.
They've had a bit of rest too.
Yeah, so I think he'll be absolutely pivotal this weekend. He can go forward and do crazy things like that as well. He just puts his body on the line, and that's exactly what you want to see. So Leicester or Dunkley for mine. I mean, I know it's a fair way out, but someone has to go forward, stay with him the whole time. I don't think Dunkley could go forward with him. Leicester could. Leicester started his career as a midfielder. Leicester can play him as you can have one of them. You can have Dunkley on him as a midfielder and then hand over to Leicester if necessary. But you then got Max Holmes and you got Bailey Smith you got to worry about as well. So they've got some speed and power everywhere you look for Geelong. So Bailey Smith, another great performance after a week where he was under a lot of pressure. So kudos to him.
Must have been very bright in the Brownlow Medal because I did see that he had sunglasses on. Bailey, goodness me. Tommy Atkins, Max Holmes, Graham Mize. It was a real team performance. So well done to the Cats. Thoroughly deserved to be there and will be my tip going into Saturday's
What's
grand
your
final.
thoughts on Tom Stewart?
Well, as I said, I think it was going to take a big-name Victorian player to be ruled out. I think they need to shift the bye to before the grand final, but concussion is only one of about 100 reasons for it. But with the concussion, yes, it can give a player an opportunity, but he's got to go through an 11-step, 12-day process. There's absolutely no certainty that he would have been available week 2. And in many ways, it concerns me a bit because it's going to give you another 7 days and the doctors go, well, I'm sure they're not going to put the player at risk, but I just think I think it eventually will go to 21 days anyway, Craig. So I think it won't be an issue. But I really feel sorry for him. But it's just bad luck, and I would hate to see him. 20 years ago, he's playing.
Oh, absolutely. 20 years ago, he's not coming off the ground in the first place.
No.
But I think it's his 4th concussion in the AFL.
Yeah.
It might be his 5th. I've gone back and I've found 4 that he's definitely had, and he's had other knocks as well. So I don't like the idea of giving him a bye between the prelim final and grand final, and as you say, maybe risking him in a grand final when he's not 100% right from the concussion, because he'll play. Like if the grand final is next week, he'll find a way to get himself up to play, because that's what players do. I don't think we want to put them in that sort of a situation. And there's other injuries floating around at the moment.
Well, that's the thing. Remove concussion from it. So, but I think Lachie Neale, for example, who I expect to play on Saturday, he would be probably certainly if it was the week after, if he was given another week. I think Barry's probably
got the
not.
shoulder.
Yeah, but
McInerney had a shoulder last year as well. We see players miss grand finals.
So McInerney, what a hard luck story he was last year. Thankfully, Tom Stewart already has a premiership in his pocket. But look, it was basically we knew about it post game, and there was some murmurings going around this morning, I think. It was only a commentary in the end, I think, from Alistair Lynch that they were going to challenge it somehow, and I thought, oh, please don't do that, because not only will you have no chance of winning, but it would suck a bit of energy out of your week, and I think Chris Scott's too smart for that. Just got to accept sometimes it's cruel.
And I reckon, I haven't spoken to Daniel Venables about this in any way, but I reckon if you said to Daniel Venables, give back your premiership and you can have your career and you can have your health.
I've asked him that in an interview, and he said, I'll give it back my premiership.
So that's how important it is. You've got to look after your body. The premiership comes secondary. Now, you can say potentially if you're really worried about it, give more medals out, all those sorts of things. But don't go playing in a grand final when you're not right with your brain.
Does Hawthorn challenge the 3-week child suspension? Should he get off?
Oh, I don't think it was anything that he did anything wrong. I thought.
So you don't think he should get 3 weeks?
No, I wouldn't have reported him at all.
I didn't think he did anything wrong, but I knew he was going to get 3 weeks. So they'll challenge it. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. The really interesting thing for me is it will be a punishment handed out according to this year's rules. I expect Greg Swan to to get a sledgehammer to the MRO.
Yeah.
I think the matrix will be much more flexible. So your Paul Curtis, your child, if found guilty, will be more likely to be a week than a 3-weeker. That's what I think will happen. But I think that he may well cop the 3.
Yeah, I just thought that Stewart was already being tripped by someone else.
Yeah, it looked that way, didn't it?
Who
he was tackled. He had
someone had his legs. So Chol wasn't responsible for him falling to ground.
Might have been Scrimshaw or Aim. Someone had his legs.
Whoever it was had the legs and contributed to it. So I thought he was really, really stiff.
Yeah. Hawthorn, not sort of so close, but yet so far away. That's how
just
it felt.
Not ready.
Yeah, just not quite ready, but a good effort to get there. As I said, I think 2 mids short. Will Day would have made a huge difference, but ultimately, Geelong's just a little bit ahead of where they are at the moment. So well done, Geelong. The other game, Brisbane Collingwood. I was red hot on Brisbane to beat Gold Coast the week before, and I was hot on them to beat Collingwood in this round. I have great admiration for Collingwood, the way they're coached, the way they play. But I wasn't convinced with their victory over Adelaide in week 1 because Adelaide had a pretty meek final. So I thought Brisbane, they just bat so deep. It was a terrific performance. McCluggage went to work. Bailey. How good a player is Darcy Wilmot?
He's a ripper. Yeah, it just gives them that run and drive, and they're the sorts of players you need to give you some energy when the big moments arrive.
And they've gone through, they have great momentum. So gave Geelong a touch-up at Cardinia Park this year. Geelong had a pretty convincing victory in week 1 of the finals, so it's really interesting to see. Before we get on to Brisbane, Collingwood. So they've recruited for now, right? They've been topping up to get the players they need to win a flag now. Have they gone over the edge, or do you still think there's a window there?
Well, they're still top 4 at the moment, so they're through to a prelim. So
could have been 8th, though. You know what I mean? I guess it's how close the season was.
Yeah, if you keep recruiting well and if you're developing guys underneath, you can bring through 1 or 2 players every now and then. You can stay up there. The key is to recruit the right players all the time, because when you are up the top like that and you're old, the moment you miss from a recruiting standpoint, if you're going to the draft and you miss, or if you go and recruit a mature age player and you miss with that player, then that's when you end up in real strife, and then there can be a quick fall down the ladder. But they have proven that they're a squad that can back it up. They've got elite players like Dacos, who is young, and we're seeing more and more with footy now that it's mature age teams that actually get through to grand finals, not ones with youth, because you've got to be able to think well, you've got to be able to be strong, you've got to be able to get through the entire season. So their ability to do that has been a key to why they've been successful. Geelong are an old team as well. Brisbane have been around for a long time also. So you just got to be able to keep backing it up year by year.
What concerns me with them, so Pendlebury a year older, Sidebottom a year older, but we've been saying that for 5 years and they keep producing. So Mycheck, Melbourne are into him.
Yeah.
He's got a big decision to make. He's so important to their structure. Jamie Elliott, so Gold Coast are into him. Now Collingwood have got a 2-year deal in front of him. I reckon I'm throwing a 3-year at him, because he was pretty stiff not to be All-Australian this year and has had a wonderful season, and again at the weekend, could have kicked 5.
Could have, yeah, but they may also take the approach, they might have someone just in their back pocket who are not aware of yet.
Jamie Elliott's don't come along very often,
who they're going to try and drag in.
Because he's that hybrid, he plays tall, he plays small, he plays medium, really hard player to match.
Yeah, he's impossible to replace with the way that he plays, but they do have to lose players, though, to be able to bring other guys in. So they might be prepared to sacrifice him for a reason that we're not aware of or anything like that. So I trust the way they build their list, because they've proven they can build a list and do really well. So they'll have a tactic in place to try to stay up there, because they're going with the approach now like Geelong, try to win it every year.
So Lachie Neale has been doing a fair bit on the training track. He's been in hyperbaric chambers, ran 8K at the weekend. If he gets through their main session this week, are you playing him at 75, 80%? Because he may not have that explosive, because of the calf, may not have that explosion out of the blocks. So
if he gets through training and the GPS data that they've got shows that he's running flat knacker, then I'm picking him. If he's clearly holding back in some way, then I'm not picking him, because we saw what happened to Scott Pendlebury the other day. But
there were no signs really with it.
No, he went in with a sore groin and came out with a calf injury. I'll never forget James Hird going into a grand final, not 100%. It was terrible. It was nowhere near what James Hird should be. And Essendon lost that grand final. So
is that Brisbane 2001?
That was Brisbane 2001, yeah. So if you go in underdone, you can let your team down. And the old mantra is don't take injured players into finals. And as good as Lachie Neale is, if he's not going to be himself, or he's not going to get through the game, then you just can't pick him.
Early one, who do you like?
I like Geelong.
Why?
I just think Chris Scott's a master as a coach. He will get the game played on his terms. If Brisbane do find a way to get out in front at any point, I think Chris Scott always has a tactical response which changes the game. I think he's got more players to call on who can do something unpredictable that you can't stop. And I think when you've got those sorts of players out there, I think that's going to be the key to victory.
So Jack Martin, Sean Manor, they spring to
mind.
No,
I'm talking about Bailey Smith, Max Holmes, Patrick Dangerfield, where you go, how on earth did they do that? That sort of unpredictability.
But they seem to have 5 or 6 of those X factors as well.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the difference in the game. And when you look back to, so last year it was Kalarchi, it was Kai Lohman.
Well, Lohman's a watch this year too. He's got something in him for this grand final.
Those X factor sorts of players who blew the game open, I think Geelong got more of them who were able to do something. And when they won the flag a few years back, it was Dangerfield and it was Smith and Cameron and Stengel and these sorts of guys who've got that power. I think power wins your grand finals.
Yeah, and I think Neale and Cameron, it's a big 1-2 punch in that forward line, just surrounded by some really, really clever medium and small forwards. So I like Geelong too. I thought the premiership team was going to come out of the Friday night preliminary final and And I thought it was going to be Geelong. So Geelong for me. Thirsty Camel mailbag time. This week's special single fin summer ale, 330ml, Camel Club member price, $57.99 a carton. Join up in store or online today. There are 2 weeks left to win a $50 digital voucher thanks to Thirsty Camel. Get your questions in to TheWestSport at wanews.com.au. Leave your mobile number at the bottom of your email and we'll send you the voucher if you're a weekly winner. A bit meagre this week, Cod. With our 2 AFL teams out. First one, should the West Coast Eagles get assistance in rebuilding their playing stock? They have been woeful since the 2022 season. Over the past 6 seasons, they have had 3 players medically retired by the AFL, 3 more retired due to chronic injury. A player was banned for 2 years by WADA, convicted of tampering with drug testing procedures. They sacked their premiership coach and forced the long-term CEO to resign. Are you concerned that the number of financial members on the waiting list has dropped to a 4-figure number? That's from Michelle. They're all concerns. I think of major concern for WA football is the royalties are down. They'll be down again. They'll be down across the board. So, look, there's concerns, but there's no way out of it but hard work and building through the draft.
Yeah, and so I'm a no. They don't deserve assistance. I
agree with that.
The only argument they can put forward is the number of guys who've been concussed, because that's out of their control. But if you're losing players to just normal injuries, that's within your control. If you're not getting players at the draft because you've traded away your picks, that's within your control. And if you miss with your drafting, that's also within your control. And most of their mistakes have been within their own control. My concern is that if West Coast get a pick this year, in any sort of assistance at all this year, then next year you'll have Essendon coming forward and saying, well, we're no good. I barrack for Essendon. Essendon haven't won a final for 21 years. West Coast have won 2 flags during that time. Essendon can then say, well, they've had more success than what we have. Why don't we get a pick? And then North Melbourne will say, well, actually, we only got a pick in the 20s when you helped us out a few years back. That did nothing for us. We need more help before Tasmania come in. And then Richmond might still be terrible when Tasmania come in. They'll say, well, hang on, we've been hard done by. We couldn't get as many picks because Tasmania came in. If you keep going down that path, you set precedents. And I don't think we want precedents. What we want to say is make good decisions, develop your players well, use your salary cap to get good players in. Don't pay your young guys over the top. Figure things out, develop your team well, and we'll go from there. Don't just give people or clubs the opportunity to make horrible mistakes and then get out of it.
I don't think there'll be any extra, but I think they'll get the number 2 for Oscar. So they'll have picks 1 and 2, and you can go to work on 1 and 2.
And then Liam Ryan wants out as well, so there's a draft pick can come in there. That's how you build your list. You're down the bottom of the ladder, so you're terrible, so you already get the pick you want. You then happily lose a free agent, so you get another pick in. Then develop really well. And then you should have a war chest, because all of your kids are getting paid nothing. They're all on minimum chips. So build up your war chest of money and then turn around and go, hey, Chad Warner in 2 years' time, we'll give you $2 million. Come home.
Yeah, Chad Warner in 2 years just looks like it's on, doesn't it? Poll well again last night
yes.
too. Hi guys, long-time listener of the show, and I've always enjoyed hearing both the hosts and listeners take on various footy subjects. I want to put forward an idea for a representative schedule going forward that could actually be feasible and not burden clubs and players with an excessively large load of extra footy. With Origin coming back next year, I think the AFL should just keep it simple, at least initially anyway. One match up every second year between 2 of the 3 traditional footy states, although to appease the South Aussies, we give them a game the year after the first scheduled match. The years in between, there should be an Indigenous All-Stars match pre-season, and with the rumoured return of international rules, that could occur in the post-season, as per what used to happen. So it could look like 2026 Origin, WA Vic, 2027 SA Vic, 2028 Indigenous All-Stars, 2029 Vic WA, 2030 Indigenous All-Stars, so on. Work with this roster and maybe look towards including other states for a second or even third match. That's from Chris. Thanks, Chris. I go back to what I've been saying all along. I think Origin, let's see how it rolls out next year first. The AFL's gone to the players and said, do you want Origin? And they've said, yes, we do.
Yep.
So let's see what happens next year. I think every 4 years, I really believe in 4 years, Cod, because I think you get maybe at most 2 cracks in your career to play it. And I think it just builds the prestige.
Make it special.
Make it
really
special. So it used to be every 4 years. It was a national carnival. I think do something along those lines. Has to be pre-season. There were people have been suggesting in the pre-finals bye, goodness me, number one, most players have gone through exit meetings and are post-season surgery. Number 2, you're going to have the guns of the comp not playing because they're playing finals. It's never going to work pre-finals. I think either mid-season, which is still unlikely because everyone's a bit banged up. Pre-season for me, I think, is the only way it can work.
The other option is, I reckon, round 4-ish.
Okay, yeah, I'll have that.
Yeah, so I don't think it can work in June. I think people are too banged up at that point. But if you want to get people where they're genuinely up and about and feeling healthy and are powerful again, that's the time you get a month into your year and then go, right, now let's have an Origin game now and give most of the competition a week off, and then you find ways to give the other guys a week off later on in the year. But yeah, that's the only time during the year. But at the moment, pre-season feels like the time where it's going to have to be, even though it won't be genuinely fair income at that point because the
let's get it back. Let's get it back first.
Representative footy is important. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, let's get it back. Hopefully it's a reasonably competitive game. People have a great day and you don't charge them too much to get in,
yes,
Todd. That's
correct.
The key. You have been listening to the West Sports Show. We've been brought to you by Tab Touch. Got the touch? Download the Tab Touch app today. Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Remember, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube Music. Cod, you're off tomorrow to the big dance.
Yes, head out tomorrow evening. So it'll be fantastic. Really looking forward to it. Grand final parade's always a great day on Friday. Grand final will be fantastic on Saturday. Who knows whether we'll be out at GMHBA Stadium on Sunday to celebrate with the Cats or out at the Brunswick Street Oval. I assume it would be at the Brunswick Street Oval. Fitzroy's.
You'll head down to GMHBA if Geelong win?
Potentially. We'll have to work that out about what's possible. We might be just writing what we already have from the day before. Well, we'll see. But it's a great week. It's a great time of year. Finals are what footy's all about, and it's exciting. So can't wait to get over to Melbourne and hopefully
back in here next Tuesday.
We'll be back here next Tuesday to talk to
wrap up the season.
Might talk to you from Melbourne Flyer on the week. We'll have to wait and see.
Let's see what happens. Thanks for your time, Cod.
Have a good weekend, everyone.